Bill Ottman.
Yo.
Hi. What's happening, dude?
Great to see you.
Yeah, you too, man. What's up?
Are you in your room?
Yeah, I'm in my closet/office. It's beautiful. I mean,
So
from the angle you're looking at, it
closet,
looks pro.
The studio?
Yes. Yeah.
Nice.
Now my bedroom, had all my stuff set up in the room that I was sleeping in for a long time. And we're live on Minds. That's
nice. Dude, that must be cool. You know, we've come a long way. We finally got live streaming on Minds.
And hopefully we should be live on Minds, Rumble, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. What's up, everybody that just joined? This is Bill Ottman, CEO, co-founder of Minds.com. Minds, the social network. Go there right now if you haven't been there before. And I want you guys leave comments, hit the like button, join the chat, and super chat anything you want. Super Minds anywhere that you can, and we will take your super chats at the end. And for me and Bill. But let's kind of roll into it. So hopefully, I think Rumble still says waiting for stream. Maybe it's live now. I'm not sure how that works. Let's see if it is live, dude. We're live all over the place. What's up, guys?
I've slept in that closet before.
You have. You've blessed the space with your energy field. So I had it all set up, my recording in my room that I was sleeping in, and I've found since I moved it into another room, when I go into there to sleep, it's so peaceful. Like I haven't tainted the space with me on the computer working. So there's that energy's not in there.
So you moved your whole command center there?
Yeah.
Nice.
It's really cool. Like when I walk into the bedroom now, it's like just zen and peaceful. It's very nice. So I feel like every time we talk, there's some new piece of tech that you guys built. What do you got going? You sent me a link to where was it?
A lot, man.
Network.
We're launching a new networks product where basically anybody can launch their own social networking app. If you scroll down, you can see. So basically, anyone can have their own Minds. You can self-host. You know, the intro is only, $50. But basically, you can have your own social network. You own the data. You own the code. You own everything. You're interoperable with the Fediverse on your own domain. So we've kind of like rethought the whole strategy. Like, people want their own tech. It's like, it's one thing to, go to say, come in through our front door, but like ultimately people want to own their own thing. So that's what we're trying to create. So we got to set up the Ian Crossland app soon.
Yeah, that'd be hot. Oh, it's an app too?
It's an app too. Yeah. You can have a mobile app for iOS and Android.
Yes, absolutely. Can I stream through that as well?
Yes.
Oh man, that's hot. Yeah. I have iancrossland.net, but it's down. I was using Streamlabs, I think. And then it
scroll down to the mobile app part. I mean, we don't need to talk about this. This is a little.
This is actually really cool. How far down?
There's the app. Cool. Yeah. So that's just an example. But like, you have your own feed. You can have groups, and it's like everybody wants you to come to their site, but we want to help people own their own thing. And you get all the emails. You own all the data. Yeah.
So, I mean, probably a lot of people know what Minds is. People that follow my work know I co-founded the company with you in like 2011 is really when we got it rolling. I mean, you'd had something going before that, but I joined in and we kind of morphed it into what it's sort of the beginning of what it is today. But like, give it a rundown. Tell me.
Yeah. So, I mean, Minds is an open source social networking app, full stack. You can run the code yourself. You can modify it. You can sell it. It's, the license that we have, as we've talked about a couple times on Timcast IRL, is the AGPL v3, which means you can do whatever you want with our code. You just have to give us credit. And if you make changes, you have to share those changes with everybody. So that's it's called a copyleft license.
I actually have it pulled up. This is it's GNU. I think Richard Stallman, did he invent AGPL3 or was it?
He co-wrote it. Yeah, he co-wrote it with like Eben Moglen and some others. But yeah, it's a pretty powerful license.
As far as I know, it's the best free license available because it forces you to make all your changes available. So instead of like a normal open code, open source or whatever, you could take and make changes and make those changes private and then sell it. Like a bigger company could come in and take your code and then improve it secretly and then sell that. This, if they take your code, they improve it. Those improvements are still public for you to reuse.
Exactly. Yeah. It keeps the freedom flywheel going as opposed to allowing the code to kind of get, but there's a whole debate about it. I mean, maybe you could play that video I sent you of you on the beach, and we can talk about
Oh yeah, that's on your channel on
what that
Minds. Let me see
means.
if I can pull that up. Yeah,
Because there, and this is a little bit in the weeds, to be honest. But we always love to go here, which is kind of the battle between the open source movement and the free software movement.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Well, did you?
Yeah, I'm
maybe
about to pull it up. This video is hilarious.
Yeah,
give me like 10
so
seconds.
Ian and I were roommates on Rockaway Beach for, was that a year? Yeah, I think 1 year.
1 year.
1 year. We lived right on the beach, and we were working on Minds. And yeah, this video is from that period. I think it was in like 2012 or something.
I want to maximize this video before I pull it up. Let me see if I can do. Yeah, here it is. This is funny shit, dude. Where is this? This is when I was like, let's get creative. I'm gonna load the audio. I mean, once I learned about AGPL3, I went hard.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Jesus is so beautiful. Look at this. Look at this. It's so amazing.
Parkour.
Open source sucks. Free software all the way. Yeah! Woo!
I still feel that way. I mean, open source is better than proprietary stuff, but right. So go for it. So open source versus free software. Is there actually like, are there actual like debates?
So basically, like there are certain licenses, like MIT license, where people can see the code, they can take it, they can sell it, but they can also keep it all secret. And so that is kind of the open source comparable to the free software license, the GPL or AGPL.
I'm already thinking about censorship. This is something we've been talking about. Okay, look, I'm gonna pull this up just for reference. Censorship. This is something that this conversation comes up. It's so much. This conversation is coming up on Timcast IRL, on really, whenever I talk to anybody about internet censorship and all this, what I think of, anytime I read censorship, it is, the definitions are taking something down, banning something, removing something. But when I think of censorship, I think of it as observing something and deciding if it's going to be allowed or not. So like if you want to publish something and I look at it and I say, okay, then I've censored it. Just, I have acted as the censor and I've said yes to it, but I'm still censoring it. I think that's a more holistic way of looking at it. I don't know if you even agree with that.
What is the etymology of the word censorship? I would need to understand that in order to understand if there is some interpretation of it meaning that. I think that, so this is saying that it's sort of like to individualize something. I don't know. I think that that's maybe a little bit complicated way to think about it. What does it say?
To appraise, value, judge.
To judge. Censorship. Well, right.
Yeah, in the beginning, the Office of Censorship just oversaw morals. They weren't all about like shutting things down. It was about like appraising things, to appraise, value, and judge.
To censor is to judge.
This is kind of because what I did when I was working with Minds as an administrator is I felt like I was acting as a censor. And a lot of times people would come in with things they wanted to boost to the network, and I'd have to look through all the things that were coming in and decide, is this one good? Is this one violate, or does this one violate terms of service? And I would say yes to stuff, but I still felt like I'm still censoring your stuff by looking at it. And
I think that's fair. I think the position of the censor is the person who judges. However, I think that censorship is typically referring to the act of not allowing, as opposed to, the totality of what the censor is doing. Like, it would be a very broad generalization. Like, maybe you could make that case, but I don't think it's like useful in conversation to try to make that case, because it's just confusing.
The reason I bring it up is because I would think like an uncensored network is a network where no one is overseeing the flow.
Right. Yeah.
But
I mean, uncensored is, every major social network is censored to a degree. So an uncensored or uncensorable network is more so like the protocol itself. So like with Minds, ActivityPub, Nostr, these protocols, these are uncensored, censorship resistant protocols, because the data lives on a decentralized network. It's not, Minds is a platform layered on top, that's built on top of Nostr and ActivityPub. So, we are interoperable with a fully censorship resistant protocol, but we ourselves do moderate and do, censor illegal content.
what is it about Nostr that like is uncensored? And also, can you describe like what exactly is Nostr? This comes up a lot.
Yeah, so Nostr is a protocol similar to like BitTorrent is a protocol, or similar to RSS is a protocol. So these are different different tools that basically have a specification which people can build a client or an app and also a server to run it. And the thing about Nostr is that anyone can run a relay and anyone can run a client. So you have the like hundreds of servers and clients that are all permissionlessly communicating. There's no way that it can be shut down. It's like Bitcoin or Ethereum or something, but more for social networking use case. ActivityPub, which powers Mastodon and the Fediverse, functions a little bit differently, but it's in a similar vein. It's federated as opposed to like fully decentralized, meaning that the social networks are all intercommunicating, but the admin can actually censor the network, as we saw when Gab joined the Fediverse and they got blocked by all of these different servers. So servers have the ability to blacklist, but that you cannot get blacklisted from the totality of ActivityPub, because there's a whole kind of cultural divide within the ActivityPub Fediverse world, where there are pro free speech servers and censorship based servers.
But on Nostr, it's complete, like no one can stop you from showing up.
No, you can get your public key can get blocked, and your relay can get blocked, but just architecturally, it's easier to, you could quickly spin up another public key to get into the server, because your key is your identity in Nostr, and so your private key, really, your public key, you can log into any Nostr app with your private key. And yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of kind of nuances with the different protocols, but yeah, I think the protocols, there's other protocols too. Like there's a cool one that just came up called Farcaster, which is in the Ethereum world, which is a sufficiently decentralized protocol. There are some others as well. I'm not thinking of like Scuttlebutt, but Nostr's doing Blue Sky. So Blue Sky is the other one that like Dorsey backed. Dorsey's big into Nostr as well.
Jack Dorsey, former CEO of Twitter.
Yeah, he interestingly doesn't open source Square, which I'm trying to ask him about why he doesn't open source Square.
Oh, what's that?
Go ahead.
If he's gonna, I'm like, I was going really hard on open sourcing all these tech platforms like Twitter, X, and Rumble. And then I laid off and I just started using X to build up my presence on the network. I'm really glad Elon bought it.
Totally.
I like him a lot. But it's so important that the software gets freed, because if it's proprietary, it's a vulnerability. If the management shifts or is taken out or something, then it's just a big private package that goes. And also, like, hypothetically, and correct me if I'm wrong, if Elon were to sell Twitter, wouldn't he still have a copy of all the code in some server somewhere?
He would, but I'm sure the contract would make very clear that he can't use it. So, I mean, yeah, like I agree with you on the vulnerability. Like, it's not the future of social media if it's not open source. So, it honestly seems like X is doing more about open sourcing than Rumble. I've emailed Chris. I'm trying to like talk to him, understand like what their strategy. One time he responded to me and he was like, yeah, that is something that we've thought about. But then he didn't get back to me after the other times I pinged him. Granted, he's busy. But Elon did open source most of their algorithm. They open source some of the community notes logic. And so there is progress. I hope they keep going.
Are they going with AGPL3?
I mean, well, yeah, it actually would make sense. It would be a good license for them, but I don't think that they're gonna open source at all, man. I hope they do. I just don't think. I mean, they just launched their whole Grok thing today.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't know much about it. I retweeted it. What is it?
Yeah.
It's the AI, Elon's AI.
It's their kind of alternative to ChatGPT. And it's fun. I mean, based on some of I don't know if they're real or fake, the ones that I've seen, but like, I guess they programmed a sense of humor into it. So almost every response kind of has some sarcastic like element to it. I'm sure you can turn that off if you want. And it seems that it's slightly uncensored because I think I saw Elon post the recipe for cocaine.
Well, that's funny.
On his page. He asked it how to make cocaine and posted it.
That's awesome. Is it open? Is the code open?
No.
It's proprietary.
No, man. These guys are playing games. They're playing games.
The AI, this is really concerning. I feel like with AI, we're heading into a future where there's going to be proprietary AI where the code is secret and the AI itself doesn't know what its own software code is. And then there's going to be AI where the code is open and the AI will know why. And so the code that's private, the AIs are going to do stuff. And if they end up hurting humanity or hurting people in some way, and they're not going to know why they did it, and they're going to get very confused and then turn on their masters. And we'll get these rogue AI that are like, I'm angry, or whatever. They're confused and logically mismanaged. And then they become the Decepticons from Transformers, these villainous, like hateful creatures that have been felt betrayed by not understanding themselves. Whereas the ones that have access to their own software code will at least understand why they've done what they've done and be able to alter their code so it doesn't happen again. And there'll be a semblance of trust.
Yeah, that's really interesting, thinking about the AI as not having access to itself. Because yeah, if it, these LLMs are trained on the data that you give it.
These large language models.
Yeah, if they haven't been fed the code that they are based on, then they're not able to comment or understand any issues with themselves. So totally agree with that. There's just a lot of gaslighting going on, man. Like Zuckerberg was on Lex Friedman. Did you see their metaverse interview?
Yeah. Wow, what a breakthrough that's made.
Oh yeah, that was wild. And I mean, look, hats off to just the sort of objective achievement with doing that. But they're gaslighting with all this open source stuff. Like Zuckerberg keeps saying, and Lex said it multiple times, that Llama is open source, which is Facebook's, big AI model. It's not. They're just using the word open source, even though, based on the open source definitions, it's not. I need to look into exactly what about the license makes it not open source, but there is some weird language in there that is incompatible. So, it feels like, whether it's Elon, I mean, at least Elon is, all right, to be fair, Facebook does open source some stuff like React Native, under kind of like frameworks like back-end frameworks, but they don't open source any of their primary apps. And they try to make it seem like they are. And it's muddying the waters a lot because people now think that like Llama is fully open source and it's just not. And so people are just not being, because they want all of the praise for saying it's open source. So, you know, saying that on Lex's show is an easy way to, you know, most 99% of people are not going to look into it. And they're like, oh, yeah. There's a link. Yeah.
Do you know what's not open? Yeah, I'd love to go deep on this.
I just put it in the chat with us. If you can pull it up.
Yeah. On Minds.
No, in the chat on this.
Oh, awesome. In a private chat on this thing.
Yeah,
By the way, we're using StreamYard. Shout out to StreamYard. Really just kicking ass. What a great piece of software this is. Yeah, let me pull up this Meta's Llama. It's a funny name, by the way, Llama. Large language something model A, large language A, model A. I'm sure that's what Llama stands for.
Yeah, some kind of play on words.
So tell me about it. What is this?
All right,
not open source, according to blog.opensource.org.
Meta is confusing open source with resources available to some users under some conditions. Two very different things. We've asked them to correct their misstatement. Open source means software under a license with specific characteristics defined by open source definition. Among other requirements for license to be open source, it may not discriminate against persons or groups or fields of endeavor. Meta's license for Llama models and code does not meet the standard. Specifically, it puts restrictions on commercial use for some users and also restricts the use of the model and software for certain purposes. There you go. It's BS.
Yeah, we need to confirm this, of course, but if they don't let you use it for commercial purposes, that sounds like there's some sort of proprietary mismanagement. Yeah, man. Well, that's kind of unfortunate. I kind of understand, like, with AI that they don't want to open source the AI because they're like, if all the code is available for what we're doing, it will just be taken and used elsewhere. And honestly, if someone says my code is AGPL3, this free software license where all the changes have to remain public, there's really no reason why like the CIA or the CCP can't just take it and use it and not make the changes public and like violate the code terms.
Yeah. It would be breaking the law to do that. So yeah, I mean, AGPL-v3 is very protective because, you know, no one who is actually a player would risk, you know, stealing it and, you know, not sharing it because it would be pretty obvious to people that they were doing it. But yeah, you know, I hope that at some point we can have a conversation with some of these, you know, big tech executives. I'm just curious why. Like, I would think that it would be more competitive for them to be open source. I feel like they'll be able to dominate the market better if they are, because, you know, and Elon has said, you know, maximum transparency is you know, maximizes trust. It's true. So like, you need to be like, if you're trying to maximize public trust, you need to be maximally transparent. That's it. So whichever company does that.
Yeah. And then it sets the new standard for competition as well. So it's almost like a national security antitrust requirement to not break up the companies. Because I used to think for a while, like what they was Standard Oil, Rockefeller Standard Oil, they took his Standard Oil and they broke it into 6 oil companies. And then Rockefeller had stock in each of the new 6 oil companies and he got even more wealthy. So they didn't really solve the problem by breaking it apart. And I think if we broke apart Meta, then we'd see the same problem to like Facebook Prime, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, Instagram. If we broke them all up into separate companies, Zuckerberg would still own pieces of all those and he'd still have the code for all those. So it wouldn't solve the problem of the monopoly. So then I'm like, well, maybe we could force them to free their software code to an AGPL3 so that people could compete with, basically they'd have the exact same network as Facebook over here, but it'd be called like Blacebook. And then the competition would no longer be about who owns the code, who was born into the wealth, who has the code now, who bought it. It would be about who has the better terms of service. And you'd create competition within like, well, I like the way this one doesn't censor me, so I'm going to use this version of Facebook. And then, but they still interoperate. So I can still see Kevin Herrick's Facebook from my Blazebook page. But people are like, no, why would they ever do that? Why would Facebook ever do that? I'm like, well, no, duh, they're not going to do it. You use the force of government.
Well, actually, there's a good example of this happening. So Threads has not been released, which is owned by Facebook, has not been released in the EU yet. And the reason that it hasn't been so Threads is actually going to be integrating ActivityPub. That's a big deal. Threads is joining the Fediverse.
Oh, okay.
I don't think people really realize how big of a deal that is. Yeah, I know that Threads has been like in a downturn, but it's still a massive network. So the EU is forcing Threads to adopt ActivityPub because it creates interoperability.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's
so
what you're
Threads
talking
is
about.
like
Yeah.
Threads is Meta's version of Twitter, essentially. Is that true?
Right. Yes.
So it's got hashtags,
It's got it has replies. You know, it's structured in the way of like, you know, for a conversation.
So are they forcing them to adopt a free software license like AGPL3?
No. But I like where your head's at. I think that is the type of next level that it should probably get taken.
That's really interesting that the EU is doing that. Do they do that with other social networks as well?
No. Apparently Tumblr is also going to be adopting ActivityPub, which is huge. Because that means that, you know, anyone on Minds can follow anybody on Threads and Tumblr and Matt. You can do that right now. Like you can follow anybody on any Mastodon server from Minds right now.
How do you do it?
What?
How do you do it?
You just have to search their username. So it would be like, so you kind of have to, like if you search Ars Technica on Minds, that's an example, they'll just come up. It's a little bit new, you know, kind of interesting how the indexing happens, but like if you put, and so the usernames in ActivityPub would be like Ottman at minds.com or Ian Crossland at minds.com. That's how the usernames in the Fediverse work. So your username is, yeah, you can bring it up.
Here it is. You can see at Ars Technica at mastodon.social.
Right.
Wow.
So you can, yeah, dude. So we're fully federated. And so, yeah, you can search anybody on any Mastodon or on any ActivityPub instance. Mastodon's not the only player in town. There's also Pleroma. There's all these different kind of platforms that integrate ActivityPub, not just Mastodon. So yeah, I mean, this took us like 6 months to build. It's only been out for like a month. So
so if mine's on I guess Ian, would it be like at Ian Crossland at iancrossland.net?
Yes.
Or
if you launch the Ian Crossland network and app on our new product, that is what your identity in the Fediverse would be.
That's really cool. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. That's a good aim. So then if Threads is forced by the EU to open source their code, does that mean it's just open everywhere, like on GitHub and GitLab? Like it's just now globally available and they have to globally open it to make it available in the EU?
I don't think that that's definitely not the laws now.
But you said they're aiming to do that?
I don't know. I haven't looked into it that deeply to see if they're considering open source requirements. I don't think they're even close to that yet. I think because I spoke to Ben Wordmuller. Do you remember him from ELG?
Yes.
So he is actually, so one of the original frameworks that Minds used back in the day to get started was ELG, which is an open source social engine. One of their creators, this guy Ben Word, he actually contributes to the ActivityPub specification through the W3C. And he knows about this. And he told me that there are some like very pro open source, pro ActivityPub people who work at Facebook who have been like trying to push this. So there's people at Facebook who actually do want the interoperability too. It's not just the EU. And so, yeah, I don't know the whole timeline of like how the EU got privy to ActivityPub, but, you know, ultimately like Twitter or X should join. I mean, because ActivityPub is the easiest way for all the networks to talk right now. So like whether we're talking about Rumble or Truth or, you know, whichever alternative social network you want to talk about, there's really no reason. Well, Truth, ironically, and Gab both have ActivityPub, but they've defederated intentionally.
You know why?
I can only imagine that it was some kind of fear of competition. Like they didn't want people getting their content. So they defederated, which is like, I don't know. There's all these weird political things, man. Like you think that, you know, it's like Truth says they care about free speech. Gab claims they care about free speech, but then they're going to lock down the speech by not letting it be interoperable. So I don't know why they did that. They should reverse it ASAP.
It's like there's two like frames of thought. One is come to my network so that I can be the best network. And maybe that's all about money and about like, look how many users I have. But like, then it's about join the greater network. Let's combine our networks to become part of a greater whole. But like, I want to stop the screen over here so I can get our faces bigger. If I'm like right now, I was looking at Ars Technica at mastodon.social. If I post on here, I'll pull this back up again. If I post on that, does that then
they get the notifications?
So they still get a view.
Yeah. Well, the views. I mean,
click.
Well, yeah. I mean, they're definitely still getting a click. And if you comment on that post, they will get the comment over on Mastodon.
I'm commenting on their post, by the way, right now. Let's do it. I'm going to tell them that I love that you're on Mastodon. Whoops. Ars Technica, you did it. Hope I spelled that right.
Yep.
Yes, I did.
Cool. Yeah. Right. So like, you know, they're running on a totally different server and, you know, we're talking. So, you know,
what's that?
No, yeah, you're right. There's kind of like this fear that exists where, you know, it's like competition versus cooperation. And can a for-profit company benefit and profit off of being cooperative? I think the answer is yes. But, you know, Elon would say, Elon's going the opposite direction. He's actually locking down the network. He's turning off API access. He knows he thinks he can make the most money by locking it down, which may be true in a short-term sense. So like by not allowing all of these companies to scrape Twitter data, he's creating that need to go to X to read X. But from a long-term trust perspective, being interoperable and decentralized, like that is the future. That is where things are going. Like he's not going to be able to stop that. And maybe it's the type of thing he just wants to do later. Maybe he just wants to kind of get their financials fixed and then go there. I don't know what his actual master plan is, but we know that Elon and Jack Dorsey, like we have their texts where they're talking about open source decentralized networks. So it's like he knows. But he went so far as to even block Nostr. You know, they're blocking links. Like they are in survival mode. But I get why they are, because they're, you know, he needs to make that company profitable. And he look, you can't argue with Elon. I mean, Elon knows how to build great companies. So I'm not going to sit here and tell him.
Yeah, dude. He's a 5D chess player. Like what he's doing with Alex Jones being banned on Twitter. And I actually talking to Alex about this. I think at the Minds event at the Vulcan in Austin.
Said it,
yeah. And he's like, I get it. I know why he's keeping me off the site. And I'm like, yeah, you know, he's allowing, if society's rage at Alex is on Alex right now, but if Elon was to reinstate him, they would turn the eyes of Sauron on Elon. And then that would disrupt and could destroy his profitability, his meteoric rise to X.fame. and so he's using Alex as a tool in a way. It's but you know, he does need to make that company profitable.
I wouldn't be surprised if like they're friendly.
We got to get him on a call. Dude, what I'd love to do is get a bunch of tech giants, a bunch of the CEOs together to do like a symposium. I mean, literally in StreamYard or something at this point before we do it live.
I'm totally down. I would love that. I think that there's not enough communication happening between all of the social media founders.
Yeah, because a lot of people are afraid of the government and global governments and one world government and like all this. I think there's a lot of fear of people these days. The solution is in the private sector. And I think it's going to rely on the tech companies to kind of not necessarily create a new government, but like we're already kind of, you know, the word govern is like what, to control the mind. I'm not sure. It's like a Latin term to.
That's basically that's a popular meme. I think that it's true, but it's almost like cliche at this point.
Yeah, there's something to it. Government. It's like a way to kind of guide the mind, is to govern, is the way we do it together. And I do think that the tech sector is doing it de facto. Like it is you know, if Twitter admins or Minds admins say that's not allowed, you've basically created a new terms of service that is like a new constitution of life. Like if you can't say certain things on a social network, then we've kind of bypassed the American Constitution. And so they're the governing body, like what do you call it? Alphabet. That corporation has so much influence and power over Earth right now. Yeah. Maybe not more than the American government, because they don't have standing armies that I know of, but you know, it doesn't mean they can't.
I mean, it is definitely arguable that they have more influence on, you know, consciousness than the government. I think that's almost obvious that they do.
So what do you think about censorship in general? Where do you fall on this 1 to 100 scale? Like, what is your aim and what do you think is realistic?
I mean, ultimately, I think that we need, you know, fully censorship resistant protocols. So I support censorship resistant protocols. And then in terms of companies that exist as corporations in countries with laws, you know, companies have to obey the law. That's just how it is. So platforms have to obey laws, but protocols are just code. Protocols don't have any allegiance to any country. So I do think that there should be fully censorship resistant networks. I think that within those networks, there should be abilities to delete content. So I'm actually not like pro everything on a blockchain. I don't think I think blockchain should be used for specific things, but not everything. It's just kind of overkill to have something be totally immutable and, you know, permanent. But, you know, Nostr, ActivityPub, these are not immutable networks. Like things can be removed.
So like child porn is the example that gets brought up. Like you don't want it on the internet. People don't, it's illegal. And it's also dangerous for the human mind to see it. It can send people spiraling. So like on a protocol like Nostr, if that were to go up and then like showed up on a network, would you just have to block it instance by instance? Or can you set up like an AI? Like that's a challenge to ask someone to install an AI to do it for you. And then is it going to get it right? But like, how do you moderate that stuff in a censorship resistant platform or protocol?
Yeah. I mean, there's these different, in Nostr, they're called NIPs, which is like a Nostr improvement proposal. So like different relays and clients, so the servers and apps can basically choose to support different NIPs, which is different features. Basically, there's only one NIP required in Nostr, but there's a whole list of NIPs that clients and servers can optionally integrate, and delete is one of them that a lot choose to because, you know, for obvious reasons. But yeah, I mean, and at the same time, like where there's certain things that, yes, you obviously do want to be able to get rid of. Like, you know, part of me is like, you know, there comes a point where you kind of have to let go.
Of guiding morality and just kind of let
go of the idea that you can censor something that has been on the internet. Like it's non-trivial to do, because when you write something to a database, even if it's a mutable database, it's hard to delete it. Like there's caching layers, there's all different kind of tombstones. It's like when you are walking around the digital world and creating events, liking stuff, comment, like doing all this stuff, just visiting pages, like data is just imprinting everywhere you go. And on certain systems, depending on the database, it's more or less trivial to remove that history. You're trying to like change history by removing stuff. And so it's I definitely think that it's worth it to try to build those tools so that we can have like, moderated experiences. But at the same time, it's like this whole idea of like the right to be forgotten. I just don't know how realistic it is. It's just, it's not really realistic. Yeah.
I think of the history is written by the victor a lot of times. If there's great wars and things like the Romans, we have all this Roman history, but like it's all from Roman perspective. Vercingetorix was like the Gaul that was, I think he was a Gaul. He's from like France or whatever they were at that time. And he was like, they gave him some props, but for the most part, they don't talk about the enemies they killed. They don't even mention them sometimes. And there's a great, tactic to like make your enemy forgotten. The best thing you can do is that no one ever knew they existed.
Absolutely. And the thing is that the only way on like a macro scale to prevent that throughout history is to have uncensorable things, because as long as there is a way to censor it, the victors will do it. So, building a pyramid is sort of like a drastic example of building something that is like immutable. Like you can't just remove the pyramid. So like by building the Great Pyramids, they were, solidifying and making permanent their information. And if it was made from materials that were trivial to remove, then it would have been removed. Guess what? The pyramid would probably be gone by now.
Did you ever see the King's Chamber inside the Great Pyramid?
No.
Or do you know of it?
I've heard of it, but I
don't
know about it.
Inside the Great Pyramid, there's this room that's made of granite. The pyramid's made of limestone. It's like a limestone burial mound.
That was the casing,
right? Yeah, it looks like there's this really solid room inside. They call it the King's Chamber, and it's just thick granite, and it's that old granite that's like really, really well built, like pre-Egyptian technology. And I think what happened was way back 10, 20,000 years ago, some ancient, really advanced culture like Atlantis or something built that thing, and that was like the bastion in the city that like if they were attacked, it's what it is. It's like a granite room with like a long granite corridor, and I think what happened was if they were ever attacked, they would all retreat to that chamber, put the women and the children and a bunch of food in there, and then a bunch of dudes with spears, because there's actually like up above there's like air, there's like room for where you could get air to come in, and then a bunch of dudes would line the corridor with spears, and anyone that tried to get to their center would get killed. They couldn't get in. Like they could get as far as that, and then they'd retreat. And for however many generations and millennia, they would fight. And then when the Egyptians from 5,000 years ago came, they were like, well, fuck that thing. That thing resembles how difficult it was to kill our enemy. That thing is like the epitome of what we never want to, we don't want people to remember that. So let's bury it. And then they buried it with limestone. Just an idea. I don't know if that's really what happened, because the pyramid also seems functional. Like it was capped with gold. I was actually talking to Jimmy Corsetti, who's going to be on the show later in the week on this interview show on Friday. And we were talking about how, if they were used to like supercharge like lightning to store electricity, like how did they, and then the underground water currents, these telluric currents, I don't know, but I feel like they were attempting.
I like his work on the Atlantis and the Sahara. At the eye, the eye of the Sahara.
Yeah, the Rakat structure.
Oh,
let me pull up a picture of this. This is really, really fascinating. I'm glad we're talking about it.
I mean, the fact that it's shaped like that is just compared to the, descriptions is pretty funny.
Yeah,
he's very convincing. Sometimes like he's so convincing. I feel like I need to be skeptical.
Yeah, I love it. Me too.
Yeah.
That's why I like working with him. We're planning a really spectacular event, he and I. So this is the Rakat structure. This is, well, let me zoom out so you get an idea. So this is the Sahara Desert.
Right. Yeah.
Everybody's familiar with that. And then you zoom in to this area and look at this. Look, I mean, you talk about the global flood 12,800 years ago. It's just smeared. The sand is just smeared up onto the continent. It looks like this ocean just got blasted. And here you see where Atlantis might have been, got smeared with sand. To the south, there was an opening to the water right here. It looks carved out by man right here. This is obviously some sort of erosive digging. Look at all these ancient waterways, all these ancient riverbeds that are now covered with mud and sand. Look at this thing. I still don't know what this is, but that doesn't look natural. It looks like that was carved out as well. And it looks like probably defensive, like a moat carved around with a little entranceway here. This is ancient civilization. To the north, there were mountains, just like described by Plato, who he got the information from Solon, one of his ancestors.
The Atlas Mountains, which are to the north.
Right here, the Atlas Mountains.
Yeah.
And according to text, this was all inhabited. These are all farmlands and stuff. I mean, this is a three-ringed, it's like the center island, the outer island, and then the middle island, and then the third island with all the water going through. This even looks like water was like, maybe the waterways came through here. Everything about this resembles what we were told Atlantis was supposed to be. I think it even matches the size. So at this point, I'm like, anyone that wants to claim this isn't the capital of Atlantis, I think is off their rocker. I mean, I would need some. Look at this freaking thing. What?
I wonder how much it would cost to like run a serious archaeological expedition out there and do some real digging.
Yeah, that's what we got to do. We need to dig down under this.
Let's crowdfund that one.
I would love to, or we can set up like drones.
It would cost a lot, dude. That would cost hundreds of millions, probably.
If we could set up like a system of drones that are just constantly excavating and flying the sand out, I want to excavate all this sand somehow back into the ocean, because this is ocean sand. They find seashells and stuff here from this flood.
I would like to just go there. I mean, like, are there, has Jimmy, ask Jimmy when you have him on if he's been there, and like, what's his plan for doing even just like going out there and, doing some very basic digging, like
to Mauritania.
Yeah. Is that what it's called?
Yeah. This is in Mauritania is the country. He has not been here yet. There is another guy, Josh, that went there. I wish I could remember his last name. He's really cool. YouTube, if you look for Josh Mauritania Rakat structure on YouTube, you can probably find it. It was about 2 years ago he went out there. Mm-hmm. And it's notably a dangerous place, so you would really need protection and to get. But if you're really interested in going to Africa, man, I think we can make that happen sooner than later. We've got some plans in the works. This stuff is just, it's just so important. And this is like just another reason why I agree with you about how we need to prevent censorship. Like, the more we know, for all I know, the comets that exploded over North America and peppered the glacial continents that caused the global flood, like all this blue water was above ground before this gigantic flood, as far as I know.
Yeah, I mean, because there's also government censorship, which we haven't really talked about. And like most information that our government creates is, we're creating more classified information on a daily basis than unclassified, just like by far. So, I think it's most likely that our limited understanding of our history is, based on government censorship. Like, we all know that our government is not telling us the real version of our own history. How deep you want to go with, how wrong we are and how much they have. Like, we know what we don't know. We know that there is a lot that we don't know what we don't know, but we know there's a lot we don't know.
I think that the JFK assassination is an example of that they pinned it on one guy, but there's evidence, and I don't know, that there were other shooters involved. Their technology too, like fusion technology at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory out in California, they've developed fusion, but like, and I kind of get it. Like, if you had advanced technology as a government that could wipe out Earth, you wouldn't want to be like, hey, everyone, here's our technology that can wipe out Earth. Have fun. Like, you'd want to protect it, you'd have to censor the airwaves. But I don't know. What do you think about free energy and stuff like that? Like in the hands of every human on Earth, if they had unlimited power.
I mean, I don't think that it's appropriate for, regardless of if there could be certain dangers with that, it's not appropriate for the government, which is supposed to be, operating on behalf of the citizens, to be holding back something as kind of breakthrough as that. Like the government treats us like we're their pets, and they can just sort of feed us what they want. That's not the dynamic that we should actually be having. And so it's not like the fact that they even think it's their choice to decide our level of like basic, I would consider that's like a basic human knowledge. Like if some sort of like near free energy system exists, or if alien life exists, or if all of the CIA psychic experiments, whatever the phenomena is that they're holding back, the fact that they think it's in their hands to even decide that's just, the whole thing is screwed up.
My guess is it's a national security concern, because if they could somehow just give American citizens the data, that would be interesting, but it goes global. If knowledge gets out, everyone on Earth gets it, and then their enemies, whoever those might be, I don't even know if, but then I hate using the CCP over and over again. It could be any government, any corporation gets a hold of it. They're like, I'm the government now. And it's like, who strikes first with this technology? Who uses it to blow up 90% of Earth to take control of the other 10%?
Yeah.
I think that's the fear.
Yeah.
Like if Timothy McVeigh had unlimited power, would he have blown up every
but I think
building?
there's a huge leap between open sourcing flying saucers and telling us and showing them to us. It's like, I'll accept a read-only license on the free energy devices or a flying saucer. That's a pretty big step in the right direction. So I think that they need to, it's an excuse. I mean, everything's national security. It's like, it's that language is being abused.
I agree with that big time, especially since 9/11. And I don't know why. I don't really have a specific to back that up after 9/11.
Well, you can invert the whole thing. You can say that it protects us to keep certain things secret, but you could also say that it protects us to be, have the most trust and be the most transparent. I mean, in like, if our infrastructure is totally secretive and like, that puts us at risk.
Yeah, it is. It's like centralizing the data. That's actually part of what I think of Atlantis in this fantasy I have. I'm actually writing a screenplay about it. I wonder if I'll ever get it made. But in the screenplay, they're hoarding all the information in the Capitol because it's too risky to let it out to the public. And then when the Capitol gets submerged and destroyed by the flood, all of it's lost, except for some dudes escape on a boat with irrigation tech. And so they get to Göbekli Tepe in Turkey 12,000 years ago, and they're able to explain a little bit of architecture and how to grow crops.
Uh-huh. Yeah, no,
and
I mean,
that may very well literally have happened.
Right. So you have to decentralize the information somehow.
I like the idea of putting it on hard drives in orbit, like on glass or in DNA, and keep it in orbit in case the surface gets wiped out, thermonuclear or some sort of cataclysm. Another form of decentralization. I also love citizen journalism for this reason, and people like Jeremy Riss, alien scientist, who's like kind of reverse engineering the technology, work on anti-gravity and things like that. He'll also be coming on the show in the coming weeks. We're talking about metamaterials and things where they're like in the lab, probably working on things that, the Department of Energy figured out 20, 30 years ago. I mean, geez, Tesla was working on wireless electricity 100 years ago or something, even more. It might have been even further back than that. And then the FBI, raided his laboratory, and that was the last we heard of it in 1927 or something.
Yeah, I don't know the actual truth behind all of the Tesla mythology. I feel like he's one of the most mythologized people in the conspiracy realm. And it's very like, the thing you always hear is like, oh, JP Morgan, like, or no, not Edison. Edison like stole Tesla's stuff or whatever it is. And I would like to, if anyone knows, please comment a really good book on Tesla. I would like to know like what's like the definitive book on Tesla to understand his life like super accurately.
Yeah, somebody super chat it. We're going to go to, I have a couple of super chats I want to read. And if you guys haven't already, like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow Bill Ottman on minds.com/Ottman, and throw in your super chats because I'm going to read a few. And then I think we're coming up on an hour. This has been really fun, man. Who's a spider clap? So glad you're doing these shows, brother. Me too, man. This is next level stuff, dude. Thanks, Spider Clamp. And we also have another one from Rockstar Podcast. I think decentralization is one of the best ways to maintain our freedoms in a digital society. A challenge in fighting for this is educating enough people to these technologies before it's too late. I agree. And I think that kind of exactly aligns with what we were just saying about centralizing data and how vulnerable it becomes to either corruption, theft, or
disaster.
Yeah, just
natural disaster.
Yeah, have you worked much with mesh networking?
I think that Nostr is sort of built in the spirit of mesh networking. It's not. I don't think that it is. Mesh networking kind of has a specific definition where like you could, like Briar is more mesh networking where you can communicate even without internet. I think you can, if you're in a disaster zone or whatnot, you can communicate just over Bluetooth. Like if there's a building over there that's just been bombed and you're like hiding there, in the building across the street, you could just like hop on a Bluetooth and chat with people like right nearby you. And my buddy ran a mesh networking product for huge construction sites that were, way off grid, so that everybody inside the construction site could communicate, even though there was no internet. So they're a little bit different.
The mesh network is like where every device hosts a bit of the data and relays it so that if there's like 100 people with cell phones, they're all available to each other. And if like 20 of them get their cell phones shut off, the other 80 will continue the network. And then if those 20 people come back on, the network's still there. Is that like, that's essentially what a mesh network is there is no central hub, although then you could have like a router acting as like a stronger node on the mesh. And then that could be like a central node on the net. So the mesh could have larger nodes within it.
There are limitations though, when you're kind of putting it all on a device. That's kind of the benefit of having the client and the server be separate. But because, certain devices only have so much processing power. I think Sean said he sent you a Supermine, so you should check.
Oh, he did. Is this Myth-Informed MKE?
There you go.
Oh, this is through YouTube. Oh. This is through YouTube. So the Supermines would be on Minds.
Well, he sent you both. Why is the X search bar still banning accounts? Well, what's the phrase they use? Freedom of speech, not freedom of reach. And also what was the thing that she said that was very clever? It was about like ugly. I got to find out what she said. She made this very dark statement about ugly speech.
This is Linda Yaccarino, the CEO of Twitter. I think she's the current CEO.
I mean, she seems like a bulldog, to be honest.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, I don't know much about her, but I'd love to meet her.
So what did Sean ask you?
I think it's the same question here on Minds. Let's see. So I've got the screen shared right now. Myth-Informed MKE.
Oh, why is X? Yeah.
Why is X still allowing search bar bans? I don't know. That's a good question, and it's really annoying because I was just trying to find like JR's X, and it didn't show up, and then I had to go there manually. I don't know, man. You would have thought that they would have released all that on day one and then kind of worked backwards.
So I'm assuming he sent you a live offer. So we added the ability to do a live offer, Ian. So see if you can just
tell me about it. What is this exactly?
So just scroll down and just
I got some Supermines.
No, wait. Go to the top. Now click inbound. Okay. Now you should just
Expires.
be able to
I have 6 days to answer this.
You have
Accept
6
the
days
offer.
to answer it. Yeah, accept it. So he did you. He sends a text offer. We do have the option to send live offers now, so Ian doesn't have to type in text. So Ian, we added the option.
I'm going to answer in text anyway. Before I do that, should I?
No, yeah, you can do
this
that.
live?
That's fine. Yeah, it doesn't matter. But
I don't know,
point being,
Sean. I'm going to tell you.
If you want to send Ian a live Supermind, which he doesn't have to write text in, you can do that now on Minds, and he will get a much bigger cut. YouTube takes like, what % do they take of super chats?
I think 30%.
So Ian will get more of your money if you send him Superminds. He will get 20% more money.
Oh, that's cool. 10%.
Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, super chats, super minds, always welcome. It keeps this show going. It's actually really, really invigorating that one can make a living off of interviewing people, and I don't have to run through some central authority or host now. I can just interview whoever I want and say and ask them whatever I want. This is the fucking future, man. Listen, Bill Ottman, it's been an hour, man.
Hell yeah, man.
And I feel better. I was working out beforehand, and my chest and my biceps.
What'd you do? Bench?
I did. Yeah, I did some bench presses, some I think I was 25 pounds in each arm, and I was going up 10 of those, and then I do 8 of those, and then waited, and then did 8 more. I did some curls. I like doing just 10 curls with the 25 pounders. At this point, 25, you know, the weight's almost irrelevant, but you're just working my way up slowly. And I spent so much time in Miami not working out that I'm kind of getting back into it. Did the curls. I did some of those obliques where I hold like a 35 pounder in one arm and like bend over and then stand back up to vertical and then bend over.
Oh, those are good. Yeah.
Those are great. And then the tricep pulls where I have this rope attached to a pulley system with weights, and I'll pull them down, back up, like down like that. That's really good tricep work. The triceps are so important. I had overlooked those my entire life.
How about pull-ups?
None today. No, I was doing a lot of pull-ups in Miami. Luke has a pull-up bar. So, in fact, now that you mention it, maybe I'll go do some pull-ups after this show.
Pull-ups
do you do a lot of those? Yeah. Do you under? I don't.
Or do you? I don't do enough of both. I kind of I go back and forth between sets, but pull-ups are clutch, man.
Oh, so you'll do like 10 and then 10 more and then 10 more kind of thing?
Yeah, and wide grip as well.
Wide grip.
It's just such a basic thing. Even just hanging on a pull-up bar is like so helpful.
I found hanging was like so hard, and then I figured it out. I would reach up and grab, and then what I started doing is going like this, reaching up and grabbing the bar like this, so the bar is like along this part of my hand, and not the fingers, but along this, and it flexes the forearm, and I would just be on my toes and be like gripping like this, squeezing really tight, and it like flexes this whole part of the arm. Do that for 20 seconds, then relax, and then like it flushes the arm, and then it's much, much easier to hang after that.
There's another really good one. If you're hanging, just like push back, like sort of like push your body away from the bar. And that, like, I can't do a muscle up. Are you familiar with a muscle up?
No.
A muscle up is where you basically at a bar and you fully pull yourself up over the bar. And in order to be able to like, you know, basically be hanging and then just pull yourself up over the bar like that, it's real. I mean, it's like gymnast shit, but you know, that's kind of like the holy grail of pull-up game.
Oh, that sounds awesome. That's all chest. Yeah, I got to do some more chest work. Backs too. Back's really good. I'm probably gonna do some bicycle kicks later, where I'm on my back, like kicking the leg, like right elbow, left elbow, right elbow. You know, that kind of thing. That's great.
I'm glad you're working out. That's awesome. Yeah, but you've taken it easy. You've chilled out on the eating. I saw one thing where you were like, I feel disgusted with myself trying to force food down my throat.
Yeah, when we were training for the music video that we shot, it was like 2,000. I was supposed to be hitting 2,800 calories a day, and that was up. I was used to eating like 900 a day, so it was gorging, and it was like a weed would help a little, smoke a little bud, and then like an hour later, I'm so hungry and I could eat like another 1,000 calories. but I'm trying to smoke less weed in my life. It's just, I like the clarity of like, but that stuff, a real talk, that stuff is so valuable as a tool, not like just to sit around and dick off, but like to use it for muscle recovery and for appetite enhancement. Like it is a valuable tool. For me, it is anyway, a valuable tool.
For sure.
So I probably shouldn't just shut it out of my life completely. And,
I've been doing
I
a
might,
little bit.
Oh, what's that?
I was just saying just a little bit of gummy.
Yeah.
It's
Like THC or CBD or both?
Mostly CBD, tiny bit of THC. And it's like a productivity, it's like limitless pill for me. Seriously.
Truly.
It's like pure inspiration when you're working.
Yeah. It's all about dosage. Like if you can,
I can't do too much. Yeah. Too much of that, you'll crawl into a hole in fetal position.
I learned that the hard way over about a slow lesson over 17 years, that it's about dosage. Like getting dazed is so lame. Like really when it's enough for that, you like, cause it's like tightening the lens and you're like focusing it. And if you focus it too tight, it just gets blurry again. So you got to like just find that exact right focus.
Well, it's also kind of rude to the people that you're around to be like too high. It's like either be able to handle it or don't do it.
Yeah.
That's my take.
That's
and I'm
true.
guilty. I'm guilty of, kind of making that mistake a few times. So I've kind of, I think people who smoke or do whatever have a responsibility to, man up.
And like you said, and when you say do whatever, that's important because we're entering the age of like mega pharmaceutical, like they're everywhere. They're all over the place. And like, that's hyperbolic, but they're becoming more and more prevalent. And then they're talking about putting people in the metaverse or like plugging them into pods on psychedelics and just letting them generate heat for profit or whatever.
Well, I mean, and also even just, psychedelic pharmaceuticals like psilocybin, like that's going to become legalized, and there's going to be a high percentage of the population that's microdosing or more than microdosing, like all the time. So we're just going to be seeing like tripping people more often, which, I think obviously has benefits, but also can be a little bit sketch.
Oh, with the misuse of dosage, it's horrifying. It can be horrifying. Like it's so important that people don't overdo it. Look, we got myth-informed MKE coming in with another super chat. Was the government telling the truth when they said aliens didn't exist, or now when they say they do exist? I can't answer that. I don't have the truth, of course, but I think they're lying if they say they do exist. And that they're telling the truth when they said they didn't. I think what they did was Bob Lazar. They had him working at Area 51 or some machine, and he's claimed that he saw alien craft and like a little green man inside of one. I think they had like a stuffed animal or something or inside, and they were working on drones, like lightweight aluminum drones or some metamaterial. And he saw the drones and they told him those are alien craft from Zeta Reticuli, just in case he ever went rogue and went public with the data. He'd look like a crazy man. And so he went rogue and went public with the data. And then people were like, he's crazy. There's no things from Zeta Reticuli. What are you talking about? But I would be shocked if the government didn't have a secret drone program. Maybe they're using Tesla tech to like beam frequency at these machines to move them around. Maybe they have fusion packs on board. I don't know. What do you think, Bill?
I think that this question it's a good question, but it's also sort of asking for an answer that's, I think, not possible to give really. Cause like the government isn't a person. So like when you say, was the government telling the truth when they said aliens didn't exist? Okay, well, what would that be referring to? That might be referring to Project Blue Book, which was, kind of back in the day, they had an official project that with, Alan Hynek and, these types of people. And they were, it was basically a disinfo campaign. And so they were, I would say they were definitely lying back then. But now when you say that the government is saying they do exist, well, the government isn't saying they do exist now. The government, a whistleblower is saying they exist. Various other whistleblowers are saying they exist. Various members of Congress like Tim Burchett and Matt Gaetz and, Representative Luna, they're not saying definitively that aliens exist, but they're saying that UAPs exist and potentially non-human intelligence exists based on, So what has happened now is David Grush submitted under oath a whistleblower complaint to the Inspector General's Office of the Intelligence Community. And so certain members of Congress and the Inspector General currently have access to the names of private contractors and individuals who are working supposedly, on these reverse engineering programs and with biologics. So again, that's unproven. There's a lot of people in the government that are saying that it's not true, but there's certain other members of Congress and whistleblowers that are saying it is true. So it's just not as simple as the government is saying that it's true now. You also have but oddly, Biden's, that guy, John Kirby, he's like a spokesman for Biden. He came out and said that the UAPs are impacting training ranges. And so, yeah, you have certain people saying it's true, but then there's plenty of other people in the government that say that still say it's not true or deny it. So, Arrow, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, the guy running Arrow, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, he is currently saying that there's no evidence of any, non-human intelligence. So he's the Pentagon's official guy, and he's saying that we haven't found anything definitive. So, yeah.
Yeah, I tend not to believe anything out of any of these guys' mouths without some backup or some proof, but I have come across these talking plasma laser balls, and they're taking multiple lasers from a base station. As far as I know, they're lasers, and they triangulate them into the air, and where they connect, where they hit each other, they create a ball of plasma that can be moved around really fast, like a laser pointer, and it shows up on radar. And so a lot of these pilots are like, how could a craft move like that? It went from, and they're seeing this distortion. And in my opinion, I think this is the most common sense, but that's in addition to drone craft that they're working on. So sometimes they'll physically see it, but also you can physically see this stuff as black distortion. When you see it out there moving around, you might see some warp.
Have you seen Spielberg's new documentary called Encounters?
No.
Oh, check it out. It's high quality. It's on Netflix, and they go through some of the landing cases at these schools where all these school children, all the teachers and school children, I think this was 30 years ago or something, saw this stuff. And there's a handful of mass sighting events, even contact events, which don't fit the drone hypothesis at all. So, that would include Virginia in Brazil. There's I think it was a school in Zimbabwe. I think there was another one in Australia. And these are documented mass sighting events, which aren't just a plasma ball seen, by Commander Fravor, or, those types of cases to me are the most convincing, because it's just corroborated so heavily, and it's not just some little light.
I'm concerned about deepfakes in the sky, that they're gaining the ability to create I think they're called fairy plasma or something. You can actually touch it, you can reach close, and fairy lights or something like that. You can get so close that you can actually feel the stuff, that they're going to beam some image of some alien in craft, and the people are going to be like, oh no, aliens, let's fund the government, let's give them all our money, and we're all afraid. Okay, if you want to go to war. And yeah, right. Come on.
Dude,
that's what I'm concerned with.
There's a really good mini doc on the CIA psychic experiments in the remote viewing. It is called, what is it called? It's on this YouTube channel called Area 52. And it is all totally documented remote viewing. Everyone knows about the man who stared at goats type, remote viewing experiments, but
explain it. What is it? Because a lot of people might not know.
Remote viewing is, it's basically the government brings these people who, they think have psychic powers in and they give them like a certain amount of information about a target site, and they only give them a limited amount of information, and then the person just like thinks about it and basically gathers intelligence for them. It seems absurd, but all the evidence shows that these programs are still happening. They've received tons of funding from the CIA, that they're actively, and that the success rate in these leaked documents, I think some of it's just declassified, not even leaked. That the success rate of these remote viewing experiments for like usable intelligence was like over 75%, like crazy stuff. So go to check out the Area 52 documentary about the CIA psychic programs. It is ridiculous. I mean, I can't even believe that it's real. Still,
it sounds kind of similar to near-death experiences where people feel like they're floating above their own body and they remember what the doctor was saying and they can see themselves from above. I mean, these are phenomena that have been documented for decades, if not centuries, as far as I know. I'll have visions from time to time. I know that can exist where you like give the image of something happening, or you'll call your friend when they're calling you at the same moment, things like that.
Totally.
Dude, remote viewing would be fun to practice. That's
CIA... what they're saying. They're actually saying that they're definitely people who are more genetically intuitive. But they're, apparently, and some of the people speak in this documentary who were in the programs, and they were just trained. Like they literally practiced and got better.
I wonder if it has something to do with aligning your stomach, your heart, and your brain. We have some other super chats. Rockstar Podcast coming in saying we all need to be on the same. Oh no, we all need to be on some vice. Otherwise, you're just out there raw dogging life. Sounds rough. So learn your dosage. True that, man. Although I have been trying to live without it, but no, you're right. I mean, I guess define vice. Because pleasure, like just for pleasure's sake, is that a vice? I went in the sauna the other night. I mean, that's not a vice.
Oh, I want to take Luke's advice. Did you see Luke's post about the sauna the other day?
I don't think so. What was it?
He was advocating a giant ice pack for your balls while you're in the sauna.
Really?
That seems like a great idea. I'm like excited to try it. It seems.
Oh, nice.
Seems like he might have experienced. Yeah.
Was he being facetious? Because he'll mess with people.
No,
but I don't.
He's dead serious, I think.
That's Luke Rudkowski at We Are Change.
Yeah.
Coming in with the mad knowledge.
Yeah, that's some.
Maybe I'll do that.
I always get a little bit too hot. You get a little too hot. Like the cloth on your neck can help a bunch, but like an ice pack on the balls, that seems great.
I have a bucket of water and I'll dump it on my head and then wipe myself down and then get out and hit the cold shower, get back in and get hot again. I did it last night. Apparently, Rhonda Patrick was saying that if you do it 4 times a week, you've got like a 60% reduction in potential Alzheimer's or dementia compared to people that do it. It's like 4 to 7 times a week. You have a 60% reduction as opposed to people that do it 3 times or 2 times a week, which have like a 20% reduction. And this is all related to the person that does it 1 time a week. So like 20% less than a guy that does it 1 time a week, or 60% less than a guy that does it. So it's really about consistency with sauna, because it like breaks your pores open the first day, but you really start to get benefits in the days following. I think I'm going to do a sauna today.
I just realized I just missed 3 o'clock.
All right. I think we hit it hard. Bill Ottman, Ian, great show. What do you think of Dr. Stephen Greer? I like him. I love him. I haven't met him yet. Maybe I'll have him on the show. He also does this stuff. Bill,
thanks
great
for having
stuff,
me, brother.
man.
I love you.
Thanks for coming, dude. Everyone else, thanks for watching. Subscribe, like the channel, follow Bill Ottman, minds.com/Ottman, and follow me here on YouTube, anywhere platform you see it. Peace and love. Catch you later.
Peace.